morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today, I would like to focus on the issue of the misconception, or rather the deliberate misleading by ZANU-PF leaders of the people of Zimbabwe. Ever since the country's independence in 1980, ZANU-PF has imposed itself on the nation and has maintained that position by pretending that it is delivering economic prosperity for all. Kutsaruzhinji, as Mugabe never seemed to tire of saying it during the 1980s. His solution to economic prosperity he called scientific socialism. And part of it was that ZANU-PF should have absolute power. If Mugabe had had his way, Zimbabwe would have been a de jure one-party state from the word go. That was not to be. The Lancaster House talks agreement came up with an arrangement where Zimbabwe was to be a multi-party democracy. But Mugabe had his own ideas. The elections, instead of them producing a government elected by the people in a free, fair, and credible election process, ended up producing a ZANU-PF government, which the people, to be quite honest, had no say in it. They had to accept it as a matter of course. Because for that campaign in 1980, Robert Mugabe and his fellow ZANU-PF cronies made it abundantly clear that ZANU-PF would not accept the result if the party was to lose. The Bush War would continue. And so the people had no choice. They voted ZANU-PF to end the Bush War. And Mugabe, as soon as he got his desk under the desk, he moved very swiftly to create the de facto one-party state. We all know, and we've said it before here, that the Gukuraundi massacre was just an excuse to force ZANU-PF's main challenger, which was PF ZAPU, to give up its ambition to be a separate party and force them to join ZANU-PF. And that they successfully did in 1987 with the signing of the Unit Accord. And that cleared the way for Mugabe to impose the de facto one-party state. And soon after independence, Mugabe was pushing his scientific socialism. He was cocksure that he was going to deliver mass economic prosperity with Sarujinji. Of course, we know it failed to do so. Zimbabwe's economy has been in decline ever since 1980. When the country attained its independence, the country was classified as an upper middle income country and has ever since been on the downward slide. I've got here on the screen the four classification of nations according to their gross national income per capita. Most of the developed countries, including the Western Europe, North America, Japan, Asia Tigers, they are Gulf countries, their per capita income is over 13,000 US dollars per person or more. The upper middle income have a gross national income per capita of between 4,466 to 13,845 thousand US dollars per capita. And the lower middle income is 1,136 to 4,485. And the lower half, the bottom, the low income countries, the per capita gross national income is $1,135 or less. In Zimbabwe, I think it's much, much less now. But when did we start? In 1980, we were considered an upper middle income country. The same status as Algeria, Angola, Botswana, Mauritius, Namibia, and South Africa today. And in the last 44 years, we have sunk down from upper middle income to lower middle income to low income. And during those 44 years, the ZANU-PF has been relentless in insisting that the economy is improving. During ZANU-PF's Kukura Wundi, ZANU-PF's soon after independence, Mugabe was talking of Kutsaruzhinji, particularly the first decade, 1980 to 1990. By 1990, it was clear the economy was in trouble. And the regime was forced to go to IMF and World Bank and agree on the Economic Structural Adjustment Program. The first program was 1990 to 1995. That program was meant to teach the scientific socialism in favor of really sound economic policies. But unfortunately, ZANU-PF only did those socialism policies that benefited the poor, while the rich got richer. Typically, the then Minister of Finance, Bernard Zero, was arguing that people must tighten their belts during that economic structure adjustment program. Yes, the poor did tighten their belts, and the rich, the ruling elite, loosened them. And so ISAP did not work. They had a second phase of ISAP 1990 to 1999. That too did not work for the same reason. Zimbabwe's economy has been in decline ever since 1980. And when our friend Emerson Mnangagwa took over after the 2017 military coup, he claimed he was going to revive the Zimbabwe economy. Like all such dictators, he was absolutely confident his plan will not fail. He launched his Zimbabwe's Open for Business with confidence, confident that the country will attract a flood of investors. When that didn't happen, he changed it. Instead of attracting foreign investors, he decided Zimbabwe was going to be developed by Zimbabweans. And so we were launched into this. The country will be built by the nationals of that country, in this case, Zimbabwe. All we did, all we've seen in the last 7 years of this Second Republic is that corruption and mismanagement have gone into overdrive. The country is being dragged deeper and deeper into the economic crisis. And yet, in typical dictatorship style, Mnangagwa has maintained that he knows what is best. And he has denied the ordinary Zimbabwean a meaningful say in the governance of the country. Like Mugabe before him, he never trusted the ordinary people with a meaningful vote because he believed that they would undermine his development policies. And so he will rig elections, impose himself, and tell the people that the economy is getting better. Mnangagwa has come with his own mantra, where Mugabe had Kutsarushinji, Mnangagwa has come up with Vision 2030, in which Zimbabwe is supposed to move from the bottom, the low income, earning 1,135 US dollars per capita, to the upper middle, where the gross national income per capita will have risen to 4 times, $4,466. That's at the bottom. Those are the very bottom. 4 times. We've got only 6 years before 2030. And where we are heading right now is in the opposite direction. The economy is sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss. And yet we are being told that in 6 years' time, the regime would have increased the income per capita, pushing the nation, dragging the nation from the low income status to the upper middle income status. And what is worse, we have no say in that. That is where the problem lies. Why are we being denied a say in that? If Mnangagwa is so confident that he's taking the people in the right direction, why is he not allowing them to have a say, a democratic say in endorsing him and his policies? Instead of him imposing those policies and forcing the people to accept it. The problem with Africa, the problem with Zimbabwe, is that we have had these corrupt regimes, and they've now focused on the few ruling elite at the expense of the rest of the population. This is a short video of a situation that was picked up happening in Gambia. Gambia is another poor country. They too are a low-income country. We are in the same league. And this video clip is about Gambia. But of course, it may just as well be about Zimbabwe, because we've seen that happen in Zimbabwe too.
Meaning of the OIC, our topic is about 100 SUV purchased by the Gambian leaders just for this OIC summit.
In terms of transportation, I want to tell you currently, Gambia government has bought 100 brand new SUVs and Mercedes-Benz.
This OIC summit is only for 1 day. It's not for 2 days. It's not for 3 days. The number of countries that will attend are 57. But what happened? Gambia, a poor country in Africa, had to go and buy 100 pieces of Toyota Land Cruiser, a SUV, new one. Each one of them cost $150,000, and they bought 100 pieces. The reason of they procuring this SUV is for the leaders who are coming to attend for the OIC summit to enjoy their life. Now the OIC summit had come and gone, and everybody was surprised. Not many leaders attended. Number one. Number two, it was so short because a leader learned from airport, and then he was taken into his hotel room, he slept, and on the 5th, he came out to give a speech. And then the next thing you will see, he will go back to airport and take a flight back to his country. Then why did you buy SUV for him? To bring him from airport to his hotel room. Take him from his hotel room to airport again. Because of that, you have to buy each leader one new SUV. Man, this is unbelievable. How do Africans think? You bought 100 pieces of SUV, and each one cost about $150,000 US dollars. Just to pick up a leader from Morocco, from Somalia, from Sudan, from Yemen, from Saudi Arabia, from Iraq, from Indonesia, bring them to the hotel and then take them back to the airport. Why not using this money you use to procure this SUV to build factory? From my understanding, Gambia is a poor country. There is nothing being manufactured in Gambia. Africa is suffering, but our leader is misusing our money. Every day, our leaders go to United Nations. They travel to United States. Do United States buy cars for them each time they come to America? Some of all these leaders, they will go to US, they will go to UK, and they will take train. Now, you invite somebody from Somalia, somebody from Yemen, somebody from Qatar, somebody from Saudi Arabia, and you have to buy a new SUV to pick him from the airport. Unbelievable. The problem now is that this summit had come and gone. They had celebrated it, and it was a disappointed one because I don't know what they thought when they were doing this. Most of these leaders didn't even need anything to welcome them. They would have used taxi just to pick them up from the airport and bring them into their hotel room, and from then to the conference center, and after that to the airport. After the summit, which lasted some hours, the leaders had gone back. The vehicle is parked there. What are they going to use the new SUV to do? 100 pieces of SUV, what are you going to use it for? Know it. President of Gambia has about 4 SUV. Senators, each one of the senators in Gambia has his own SUV. Senators the same, governors the same, local government chair.
It's a very familiar story that Zimbabwe is to host the SADC heads of state meeting in August. And already the Mnangagwa government has refurbished the former Mikkels Hotel, which rumor has it that Mnangagwa has since bought it, but it was refurbished for the purpose of hosting that summit. We'll never know who actually paid for the refurbishment, but it would not come as a surprise at all that government paid the bill. And at the end of the day, who is benefiting from the refurbishment? The new owner. But we already know who the new owner is. The Mikkels Hotel used to be a 5-star hotel. So it has got bedrooms that would have accommodated easily most of the 16 SADC heads of state and many of their delegates. There are other hotels, the former Sheraton, where the remaining delegates could have easily been accommodated. But instead, the government is building 18 villas, no expense spared, to accommodate visiting heads, SADC heads of state, 18 of them. The summit is no more than just a few days. And at the end of it, what is going to happen to the villas? You're right. You don't have to guess. No doubt they will be allocated to the ruling elite. Ministers, judges, and other the ruling elite. The same people who last year, for instance, the judges got each $400,000 housing loan each. It was called housing loan, but we all know that they will never have to repay it. And this money was paid just a few weeks before nomination day. And many other key people involved in the election, last year's election, were bribed accordingly. Members of parliament, to make sure that they did not raise any dust on the issue of these bribes, these housing loans that was being dished out to the ruling elite, as if there's no tomorrow. They got $40,000 housing loan in November 2022. And so did the senators. A few weeks later, we had that the deputy ministers got 230,000, and the ministers $500,000 each. And in June, that's when we heard that the judges were getting $400,000. The MPs did not complain. They had had their share. as we call it in Zimbabwe, varamromo. They've been bribed. They accepted their bribe, so they can't complain. And the judges, who each got 400,000 just before the election, they knew it was a bribe. As far as I know, they all accepted it, pocketed it. And so the corruption goes on. We are building these 18 villas at a time when Zimbabwe's main hospital, referral hospitals like Parenya Mpilo Hospital, are in such a poor state that you regularly hear that there's no running water in those hospitals. They have no painkillers. If the referral hospital is in such a poor state, what more of the provincial hospitals? What more of the district hospitals? Schools, the same thing. Zimbabwe has had the reputation of increasing the number of students ever since the country's independence. But I think most people are slowly learning the reality that ZANU-PF was more keen on quantity at the expense of quality. It is now common knowledge that many of end of the year or when the results came at various levels, from grade 7, end of your primary school, to Form 1, to Form 2 results, Form 4 results, Form 6 results, university and college results, many people fail, particularly the rural schools. In 2019, Chirezi South constituency, that's in Masvingo, the MP was on record saying in his entire constituency, the best performing grade 7, Form 2, Form 4, and Form 6 schools had a pass rate of 3%. The rest of them had less than that, and many had even 0 pass rate. That's the whole constituency. And it is not unique to Chirezi South. Most of the rural schools, government schools, they are in a sorry state that the pass rate is 3% or thereabout. How can we have a nation, a prosperous nation, when we're neglecting one of the basic requirements, an educated populace? That 97% of students who are failing to come up with a pass rate, passing even the most basic read and write, what kind of citizens will they be? How can we expect economic growth in the record 6 years to 2020 to 2030 when at least half of the population is ill educated in this day and age? This is just building up into a serious economic crisis. The nation is going to be stuck in this rut. for a long time. We really need to wake up and address these problems. These problems are not going to go by themselves. And the Zimbabweans have been twiddling their fingers, their hands, for the last 44 years while this madness continues. 44 years of rigged elections is the root cause of Zimbabwe's economic meltdown. That is the truth. Mnangagwa rigged last year's elections. Forget his no expense spared to promote that Zimbabwe is now moving forward. What matters is last year, the people should have been given the opportunity to have a meaningful say on who governs the country. If the people had freely elected him in a free, fair, and credible election, and the economy continued to sink, people left only themselves to. They should have paid attention. But when you rig elections and the economy continues to fail, I think the people have got twice the reason to be angry. You denied them a meaningful say in the first place. You are promising them something that you know you're not going to deliver. And you know at the end of the day, you're not going to be accountable. You are not going to let the people decide, have a meaningful say again. Come 2028, ZANU-PF is geared to rig those elections. Come 2028, it will be 2 years to 2030, to his vision 2030. And Zimbabwe's economy will still be in serious trouble. The schools will still be in a sorry state. Hospitals, the same thing. Only the few filthy rich ruling elite will be living in total luxury. And Mnangagwa will be spending billions of dollars bribing those to make sure that he wins 2028 elections. And so the carry on can continue. We have got to break this mold. We have got to break this system. This system has failed, and we need to break it. The situation in Zimbabwe is absolutely intolerable. The country has sunk from an upper middle income nation in 1980 to where we are now. Countries like Botswana in 1980 were economically could not even compete with countries like Zimbabwe. And yet today, Botswana is prosperous. Well on its way, it is actually an upper middle income nation because they manage their resources carefully. In 1980, a Japanese scholar, Ken Yamamoto, said Zimbabwe had the potential to become the South Korea of Africa. South Korea today is considered to be a high-income nation. It's one of the Asia tigers. We had that potential Instead, we've been backsliding all the time. Over 50% of Zimbabweans today live in abject poverty. They live on less than $1 a day. That percentage is increasing all the time. And when you look at the school results where pass rates are 3% or less, you can tell all those who are failing will only be added to the pile of those living in abject poverty. So that population is growing all the time. This Vision 2030 is a mirage. It's not going to happen. We have seen the last 44 years things getting worse and worse and worse. To keep on believing in Kusaro Shinji when there is, you can see where we are heading is mass poverty, is naive to say the least. I think Zimbabweans need to wake up. The situation in Zimbabwe is not going to be changed by outsiders. We need to change it. We have the opportunity to change it. That opportunity is only possible if we stop this case of rigged elections. We can stop ZANU-PF rigging elections. And we must stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. That is the only way forward. Why we have failed to do so is our problem. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day.